So I want to introduce Adam Banning, who's with Epigenetics, and who's here to talk to us about detoxification. We get exposed to toxins every day in the environment, in the air, in the food, pesticides that are sprayed on the fruits and vegetables, genetically modified crops. They've done studies and they've looked at umbilical cord blood of newborns, and they found 180 different cancer-causing toxins. So we come into the world with toxins, and we constantly get exposed to toxins. So, what can we do about this? We know that these toxins are, potentially related to chronic diseases. And last year there was a report from the President's Council on Cancer, and they looked at, what things could be done to reduce our risk of cancer. And one of their main sets of recommendations were to try to reduce your exposure to all these toxins. And they made a bunch of recommendations for things like eating organic, and another simple thing you can do is take your shoes off before you enter your home, because you walk across the lawn, or you pick up petroleum products and everything else on your shoes, and then you walk them across your home. So besides avoiding these toxins, what else can we do? And that's what Adam's going to give us some information about.
So when it comes to toxicity, the concept is clear. You can run, but you can't hide. Toxins are part of our environment these days. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, approximately 150 years ago, we found ourselves coming in contact with different forms of petroleum and other forms of toxins that are part of the growth of our society, going from an agricultural type of society or an agro-society to a industrial society. Byproducts of creating things as simple as steel, creating oils, creating lubricants, creating plastics. All of these different factors play an important part in understanding where we came from on this whole subject matter. One instance which I thought was interesting, which really backs up that concept of you can run but you can't hide, so you might as well upregulate your ability to be able to process the toxins out of your body on a regular basis, is there was a specific form of toxin that was used, or a specific lubricant that was used all the way up in Nome, Alaska, right outside of Nome, Alaska, for pipeline work. And it was very, very specific and only used in this one situation. They found it in samples, tissue samples of people in Texas. Okay? There are no borders between the air, between states, between water tables. There are no borders in many situations. This stuff gets around. So we have to take a look at specifically, are we toxic? Not if we're, how toxic we are, as opposed to are we toxic or are we not toxic? And that's an important thing to take a look at, because we do live within society these days. There are not too many people who live up in the middle of the Himalayas drinking wheatgrass all day long. You're in a big city here. There's lots of pollutants, so on and so forth. They can affect you in many, many different ways. Here's one example. In every single unit of hemoglobin, which hemoglobin is in blood, okay, there is 4 different seats available for each unit for oxygen, okay? When you live in a city like this, upwards of 1 of those seats can be filled with carbon monoxide, okay? So really working to be able to make sure that we can get these toxins out of the system is very important, because that can leave you without breath, it can leave you without oxygenation. Oxygenation is necessary for energy production, so on and so forth. And many times people are fatigued due to toxicity. For that and dozens of other reasons. We're going to be getting into those today to give you some insights and simple things you can do to be able to really upregulate your body's ability to be able to deal with the toxins and remove yourself from so much exposure. And they're really simple things that you can do that can make big differences. Okay? So basically speaking, this says exposure to environmental toxins can really rob you of your health and vitality. This is found out to be true and true and true in the area of toxicology. They're learning so much these days. The cord blood work, which came out of Mount Sinai Hospital, was well-respected work. And it found out that it wasn't like some people had toxins. Every single person had at least the 6 most carcinogenic toxins, many of which are no longer allowed in the United States in their cord blood, including DDT. It's not allowed in the United States. How did it get into the cord blood? Guess what? It's coating all the fruits and vegetables that we import. Okay? So all of these things are really important to be able to take into account. We'll give you simple ways to be able to work with that and to upregulate your own ability of getting toxins out of your body and make major differences in the way you feel. It's interesting. People find themselves equalizing or adapting to their environment. And they basically say, me standing up like this is how I stand up, okay? But they don't take into account that maybe them standing up like that, they could be jumping an extra foot. Because they forget slowly over time, they lose their ability for function, mental function, physical function, interactive function, so on and so forth. And it happens so quickly that it's almost like the analogy of the frog in the pot. Has everybody heard the analogy of the frog in the pot? The frog in the pot is this, is where basically you take a frog and you stick it in a pot of boiling water, it jumps out, right? But if you take the frog and you put it in a pot of cold water and stick it over a low heat until it finally boils, it will stay in there until it dies. Slow change is the most insidious. And when you make a big change, like putting a person on the type of approach that we're trying to talk about with the diet and other nutraceuticals and things, in a 10-day period of time, they stand there and go, I feel really good. I've not felt this good in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Okay? So it's major to be able to conquer that slow, insidious change and allow people to feel the true potential of their health and well-being. I utilized one of these programs as well as a program called First Line Therapy that I know that you utilize in this practice. And I lost 60 pounds. I was pre-diabetic, all right? I couldn't do more than 3 good push-ups. Now I can do 3 sets of 50 push-ups. I wasn't able to run more than 3 blocks. Now I can run 15 miles. I'm 55 years old, and I literally lost 15 years as it relates to function, all right? So the bottom line is our bodies can do amazing things. It does, a simple fact of this, it puts up with all these toxins. But the slow degradation is hard to track. So you stand there and go, I'm feeling okay. Yes, you're feeling okay as compared to yesterday. But think back to 10, 15 years ago, or before the accident, or other types of situations. It's important to understand that your body has great opportunity and potential in it. And we're going to be talking about that as well when we get those toxins easily getting out of the system as opposed to being stored. So every day, we're in constant contact with environmental toxins leading to health concerns and a variety of areas. The toxins, as we said before, they end up going into the wind and they end up being dumped down by rain. Whether this distance here is 5 miles or, as I mentioned before, the distance is over 3,000 miles. Okay? This happens. It's measurable and has measurable effects on human beings and human health. Here's some instances of simple things out there that we have in our environment every single day. BPA, or bisphenol A. All right? Bisphenol A is in plastic bottles and containers. How many people here drink bottled water? Come on, work with me. Everybody does. But BPA is directly linked to type 2 diabetes onset, which is one of the #1 growing disorders right now. And type 2 diabetes, by the way, just for your own concept here, type 2 diabetes isn't one day I didn't have type 2 diabetes, and the next day, my God, I've got type 2 diabetes. I woke up this morning, I got type 2. No, it's a continuum that brings you there. You start out with a little bit of blood sugar problems like hypoglycemia, like anybody here ever like feel tired after a meal? Ever feel tired after a meal? Okay, that's where it starts. Okay, and then all of a sudden you find yourself where, you know something, I'm feeling more tired more often, and you know something, I'm starting to put on a little bit extra weight, and at this point, also I'm having other issues that are popping up, certain neuropathies, and then before you know it, you got metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, and diabetes. It's big. This is just leading to it, and how many people suck on these bottles? Okay? Diabetes is only one of 15 different types of diseases and disorders that are directly linked to bisphenol A, something that everybody does.
But of course, a lot of people would say, well, I don't use bisphenol BPA bottles. I use BPA-free bottles.
Right. And there are other forms of specific toxins as well. I'm not going to get all the way down the line with this, but there are other forms of toxins there as well. Try this one. Try getting yourself a really nice glass-lined container.
Yeah.
Okay? And carry it with you. Keep your water with you. My goodness, it tastes great. You get the ones that are insulated. They stay cool all the time. It's beautiful. We bought these from REI, okay? And they're amazing.
Yeah.
Your health is worth it. I'm going to say this saying probably 1,000 times during this presentation. Don't mind me, but I want to get it across. Your health is worth it. That's what it's all about here. When I all of a sudden was able to play with my children again, after like sitting back going, you guys go ahead, and being 60 pounds more than I am right now, when I was able to outrun my 20-year-old son, okay? Outrun that little sucker, and I'm 55. When I'm able to outlift him, okay? When I'm able to bench press him, okay? All of a sudden I realized there's a lot to this. There's a lot of opportunity here. Your health is worth it. Imagine if you had twice the vitality you have right now. You can have it. The next area is PUFAs, okay? Or these specific things that are on non-stick cookware. Non-stick cookware. You know, you got the pans. You put the eggs down, you ever see that stuff? You ever see those pans chip? Anytime those pans chip, guess what? It can lead towards increases of certain types of mitotic states or cancers. And one of the things, which by the way is probably going to be the death of us one of these days, male sperm count is going down like crazy. 27 years ago, there was a study, and there was a study that was done this last year, and our sperm count is now in half of what it used to be 27 years ago. All right? And it's been steadily going down. What happens when there's no more sperm out there? There's no more kids. There's no more kids. Population goes down. We're killing ourselves. I'm not just talking about killing yourself within one generation like cancer, which they're starting to show a direct correlation here. So when you're dealing with that type stuff, those green pans tend to be a little bit better, okay? They tend to be better in that way. There's other forms of things that don't have that Teflon to it, okay? Anything that is going to have a Teflon chip is going to be problematic. This is falling under the category of reducing your exposure. If you have a couple of different things in your bag and go, I can reduce exposure, you can live longer, you can live happier, you can have more energy, you can be more slim, more fit, and be able to do what you want to be able to do longer. Because guess what? The biggest problem in the United States, as well as throughout the world these days, is having less life, or less living in your life, okay? You live 90 years, but by the time you make it to 50 years old, it goes downhill. And that's what's expected by most people, okay? That's not necessary. People who take these type of approaches that I'm talking about here really standardize, and out to 80 and 90 years old, really keep up the life in their life until the point where they have the ultimate passing, which is, I fell asleep one day and said goodbye. But you know something? I played tennis the afternoon before, all right? It can be done. It's proven it can be done. There's the science behind it, and these type of things will help you to be able to make sure you maintain life within your life. The next thing is acrylamides. This is really important, guys. Acrylamides is when you take any carbohydrate, you fry it. They say put it under high heat, but boy, it comes out when you fry it. French fries are death. French or anything fried like fried chicken is death. What it does first of all is, just for the overall, like let's say sports performance, okay? It takes mitochondrial function and puts it in the dumper, okay? Taking the electron chain transporter, what's known as the Krebs cycle, and making it work at anywhere between 20 and 40% less effective, okay? French fries will never ever be energy food for anybody. They will be death food for people. Mitochondrial function is one of the top areas you look at in regards to making sure people don't prematurely age, okay? And there's lots of people out there who 20, 30, and 40 years old who are way older than they should be because they eat fried food. Say goodbye to fried food if you want to say hello to vitality and health. Like let's say an individual, Robert Silverman, who does presentations for us in the area of sports nutrition and other areas of nutrition. He's got a whole list of degrees after his name. It's like longer than his name. Smart guy. But he had people, he deals a lot with college basketball. And he had people get off of fried foods, totally get off of fried foods, and take mitochondrial enhancers. He was able to increase the speed of wind sprints by 27% just by doing those two things. 27% increase in wind sprints? That'll take you a long way on a court, babe. Okay? So these things are all about vitality.
Which mitochondrial support you mean, like
just CoQ10. Just CoQ10. But getting rid of the fried foods.
What about MitoViv?
MitoViv, he did not try MitoViv, but he's a big user of it, and he's starting to do some preliminary work with it.
What would your
My recommendation would be to get off the French fries, to be able to do MitoViv, and also my recommendation would be able to take Thyrosol. Okay? Because if you really take a look at it, mitochondrial function has a lot to do with basal metabolic rate, or ability to burn calories, but that's affected through mitochondrial production of energy. All right? If you can help a person be more effective in the production of energy, like Thyrosol does, okay, and helping thyroid function, you can really do great things at that level. So, MitoViv, Thyrosol, get them off of fried foods, lots of water, okay? That would be my recommendation in this situation. I think Rob Silverman would agree on that one. That's what he's looking into these days. The next area is mercury. Mercury is not a fun thing. I mean, they used to play with it with their hands. Did anybody ever did Mad Hatter before? The Mad Hatter became mad, and why they call them Mad Hatters is because they used to make the collars around people's hats, you know, the rims around their hats, they used to take and put mercury in it and play with it with their hands. Okay? They became crazy. Mercury forms brain damage. Mercury reduces sperm count. Mercury reduces lactobacillus acidophilus counts and gastrointestinal immune function. Mercury is neurotoxic like you wouldn't believe. There's a wide variety of things that mercury should not be in touch with the body, but guess what? They stick it in people's mouths. How many people here have fillings? Work with me, all right? Now, a little bit of insight in regards to the fillings. Okay, if you do have fillings, and you do find yourself getting a very high test or a moderate to high test in regards to heavy metals, there's certain urine tests you can do, all right? Then make sure you bring it to a biological dentist. A biological dentist doesn't just yank them out of your mouth or drill them out, which forms a mist that goes into the rest of your body. But it actually uses a slow drill and has a dental dam, which actually sucks out any of the vapor, okay? It's well worth the extra money because I've seen many individuals really go into weird chronic states of illness after removal of mercury amalgams, okay? Just a little insight on that. So these are just some of the items that are found virtually in all Americans. All Americans have this in their body. That's not a good thing. Let's get it out of their body. And the approach we're going to talk about today is more than just removing toxins like these first three here. Most of the companies out there that are trying to do detoxes are really focusing on these first three. It's also about removing heavy metals. And heavy metals play a major role in our overall states of disease, disorder, and breakdown, even leading towards such things as dementia and Alzheimer's, which is growing and growing like crazy. And it starts out with simple things like MCIs, mild cognitive impairments. Do you know what an MCI is? Where are my keys? I forgot where I parked that darn car. What were we just talking about? People who have MCIs have twice as much of a risk as people who don't have MCIs for going into a pre-dementia, okay, which is the state before dementia or Alzheimer's, okay? Another insight for you is they have this thing called type 3 diabetes. I'm just going to give you a little one here. This is really important. Type 3 diabetes is how blood sugar affects the brain, all right? They're finding out people who get Alzheimer's are people who don't mind their blood sugar, eat regular meals, make sure proteins and carbs are together in meals, not straight carbs in meals, okay? All this type of work is what this man specializes in, okay? So if you ever want to live an optimal lifestyle, ask him about something like the First Line Therapy program. It's a good thing to do every once in a while, even if you're not overweight, even if you don't have high triglycerides or high cholesterol. It's a great thing to do as a preventive and to bring back vitality. So basically, how do these things get into our body and how they affect us? There's a simple chart right here. Let's say that we bring in a toxin through food, okay? As we were talking about the toxins, let's say, from Teflon getting onto our eggs that we just cooked up and it gets into our body. So the toxin here goes into the gastrointestinal tract. Within this gastrointestinal tract, many times there's lots of good and bad bacteria, but this one seems like it has a little bit more bad bacteria in it, okay? When you have a little more bad bacteria, you tend to have bloating. Has anybody ever had bloating after meals and things like that? You know, you get bloating after meals. Sometimes, you know, you get a little constipated. Sometimes you get a little diarrhea. Things tend to get a little funky, you know, especially after you eat larger meals. Maybe you get a little bit of reflux. Maybe you burp up a lot, lower bowel gas. Fun things like these are all signs of too much bad bacteria in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay? So all of these different factors may be what you're feeling as well, because the average American goes through this. The GI is like the number 3 reason why people see doctors, because the gastrointestinal tract is such a big issue out there right now. So this gastrointestinal tract is where the toxin is going, and it's going to an area in the gastrointestinal tract that has an overgrowth of bad bacteria. That overgrowth of bad bacteria has this effect on the gastrointestinal tract. It makes it what's known as leaky gut. Has anybody ever heard of leaky gut before? Mm-hmm. Leaky gut is a very interesting concept. I actually met the man who created the term, Leo Galland. I used to sit down with him, talk with him, and detail to him as a sales rep for Epigenetics. Brilliant man, Leo Galland in Manhattan, medical doctor. Wrote many books on leaky gut and what's known as dysbiosis. Basically speaking, when you get an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the gut, the byproducts of those overgrowth of bad bacteria, of them living, sort of like the bad bacteria's poop, okay, forms problems within the intestinal wall and forms leakiness, which allows bad things to get into the body, okay? So basically speaking, these toxins, along with the bad things, are able to easily get into the body through the intestinal wall, because the intestinal wall should be a barrier to keep the bad things out and only allow nutrients in, okay, from your food. So basically speaking, everything's making it in, okay? It's like a party. So this, all of a sudden, it makes it through the intestinal wall, goes into circulation. It's a specific form of bodily circulation known as portal circulation, which goes directly to the liver, okay? And those toxins stand there, and they go, boy, I'm a fat-soluble toxin, and I got 2 routes to take. If I stay fat-soluble, I'm going to end up in your brain and your body fat in different parts of your body, and I'm going to cause problems. But if they can turn, this liver can turn me from fat-soluble to water-soluble, you can pee me out and poop me out, okay? And sweat me out. All right? So how does that happen? The toxin stands there and goes, I got 2 options. Well, the way it's supposed to happen is in phase 1 of liver detoxification, it adds an oxygen molecule to this fat-soluble toxin. And in phase 2, it takes it and it puts it and adds what's known as a conjugate to it. After the oxygen and the conjugate are attached to it, it takes fat-soluble, turns it to water-soluble, so it can be excreted out of the body. But unfortunately, that process to go from fat-soluble to water-soluble is very nutrient-dependent. Unfortunately, right now, the average American diet is very, very low in many of the nutrients necessary for liver detoxification in that phase 1 and phase 2. Many of the nutrients which are utilized, things like magnesium and zinc, being some of the nutrients, are our first and second most deficient nutrient in the American diet right now. Okay? Guess where you get magnesium mostly from? Magnesium is the actual center molecule in chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is the stuff that makes green leafies green. And most Americans don't eat enough green leafy vegetables. So that's one way you can help out. But in and of itself, that's not going to increase liver detoxification to put up with the load of all the toxins we have in our environment. So basically speaking, if it does work well, it gets out of the body. If it doesn't, it ends up staying fat-soluble, like shown here. This is a fat-soluble, and it's still fat-soluble, so it ends up getting stored in body fat, ends up in the brain and other tissues throughout the body, leading to many of the issues which are seen in toxicity. And basically, how do you know that you have toxic overload? There's numerous ways to do it. There's both subjective and objective testing. Okay? Objective testing is actually to do an analysis of your liver pathways and see if those pathways for converting fat-soluble toxins to water-soluble are working. Okay? If they're not, you can have a problem. Subjective can oftentimes be as good, according to the research, where you take a look at a person's symptoms, because there are certain symptoms which are telltale signs of a person being toxic. You filled out a questionnaire before. Did each one of you fill out the questionnaire? Okay, we're going to go over the questionnaires to let you get some ideas as to what symptoms are related to what. Okay? But, basically speaking, here's some of the basic ones, but there's so many more. Fatigue, depression, headaches, brain fog, memory issues, dizziness, even tremors can be related to toxicity. So we want to be able to make sure that individuals are not suffering from these. And the interesting point is, by going on simple as a 10-day program, you can have 2 to 3 times more energy. You can find yourself in a case where all of a sudden you're not getting depressed or you're not feeling as blue anymore. You may not be like depressed like you're thinking about killing yourself, but it's like, it's hard not to be negative sometimes. You know what I mean? You're like, I got a bit of stress, hard not to be negative. In addition to that, you may have achiness. You may have brain fog. Your memory may not be as good as you'd like it to be. All of these different factors can be hindered by those toxins. Another area is the area of heavy metals. These are general toxins. Heavy metals are very, very interesting. Has anybody ever heard of heavy metal chelation? Okay? Heavy metal chelation is this advanced approach where they put something into your body in an IV form and it chelates, it takes the metals in your body, attaches to them, and allows you to excrete them out of your body. It's rather expensive and sort of a pain in the butt. Certain forms of intravenous chelation, very, very expensive, and they deplete your body of certain nutrients. Certain forms of oral chelation actually make you feel like you have a fever. It's sort of weird. But there's actually a system inside your body which actually does heavy metal chelation already. It's known as the Matala Theanine system, okay? It's got 2 different jobs. Every single cell of your body, it helps to balance out the 2 minerals, zinc and copper, to make sure you have the proper amount of zinc and copper inside your cells. If you have too much zinc or too much copper, it gets it outside the cells and allows you to excrete it out. What it also does is it's been found to be very effective in getting out heavy metals, things like mercury and others, cadmium and others. So what we at Epigenetics took a look at is, hey, is there a way we can upregulate this system to do heavy metal chelation on people without costing them an arm and a leg or without giving them fever-like symptoms of the oral chelation, okay? And we came up with that as well. We'll go over that as well. So some of the signs of heavy metal toxicity mostly have to do, interestingly enough, with emotional states. Like if you get angry or frustrated, okay? Like when you find yourself being confused by issues faster than you'd like to be confused by issues. a lot of the mental states are some of the clear first areas when it comes to symptomology, okay? So basically speaking, these are symptoms of toxic overload. Those are symptoms of heavy metal overload. So the real question is, what can you do in this situation? Well, there's two different ways to be able to approach it. First of all, is you can reduce the exposure. And this is really important because you know something? If you all of a sudden you're standing there and you're taking, and you're in a rowboat and it's got a hole on the bottom, and you're taking out the water, I don't care if you got a bigger bucket, it's still a problem unless you deal with the hole. Okay? So we want to reduce exposure, not just upregulate your ability to get toxins out of your body. All right? Let's make sure you're not bumping into as many bad guys. All right? So the situation is reduce exposure and detoxify with at least a proven and studied program. There's a lot of people out there say, oh, you can detoxify with lemon water and olive oil and maple syrup and things like that. And then you ask them for research on it, and go, oh, no, it's well known it works. Always ask for research. Always be the person who says, show me. I want to see a real published research, okay? Because there's a lot of hearsay in this industry. One of the things that Dr. Weitz does is he's very, very specific about wanting to make sure that he's done his due diligence with the research. Because if you don't do that, then you're like the bunch of crazy people in the vitamin stores, okay? You want to make sure that you're getting good outcomes which are based on science. So you want to reduce the exposure to toxins. Here's a couple things you can do. Now, take note in your mind on these. If you like also, what we can do is we will send Dr. Weitz the PowerPoint and we can send it to you guys. So you can look it over anytime you want in the future. So first of all, you want to reduce the exposure to pesticides and herbicides by avoiding fruits and vegetables that are on what's known as the dirty dozen list. Okay? And we're going to get into that list. Choose from organic substitutes for these. Okay? So let's take a look at the dirty dozen list. These are the ones where they use the most amount of toxic pesticides. Celery. Darn it. When I saw that, I was like, my blue cheese and celery is gone. But oh well. Celery. Peaches. Strawberries. Do you know how they make strawberries, by the way? This is wild. They take and they fill the ground with Roundup until it's soaking with Roundup, which is glyphosate. And glyphosate, guess what glyphosate is? It's the original molecule that was used in Vietnam. It was known as Agent Orange. Okay? A lot of those people got cancer from it. All right? But they're still using glyphosate here. So they take the ground and they make it muddy with glyphosate. Feet, 2, 3, 4 feet down. So it's a big mud pile of it. Then what they do is they cover it up with plastic. And then what they do is they take and punch a hole through the plastic and stick the plant down into that. All right? And then they grow it from there. Okay? To try to make a sterile environment. But what they're doing is making a highly toxic environment. Then they spray it afterwards too. Okay? So it's not only bad from the outside, it's bad from the inside. When you get strawberries, if you don't get organic strawberries, remember to bring a gun along with you too, because you might as well shoot yourself. Okay? Organic strawberries, please. Apples, blueberries. Everybody says blueberries are great because they're low glycemic index, but let's make sure we get them clean. Get organic blueberries. This list, go organic. Your health is so worth it. Really. I mean, you're a young guy these days, but you don't want to head in that direction. And all these different things, there's this thing called epigenetics. Okay? Epigenetics is really interesting because what it is it says that your life is not your genes. Like someone says, oh, I've got the breast cancer gene, I'm going to get breast cancer. No. They found out that only a certain percentage of women with the breast cancer gene get the breast cancer. Do you know why? Because when you take the gene and you mix it with your environment, then you get an outcome. So your environment may not be activating that gene to turn on. It may be deactivating it to turn off and not express itself. So basically speaking, when it comes to, especially as we get older, we want to be able to make sure that we're doing things that don't activate nasty genes. Okay? There's this process called methylation in your body. It can be very helped by something called, we have a product called Folapro. Folic acid can be very helpful in regards to making sure that your body activates only the healthy genes. Okay? So it'll activate, your Uncle Bob, who was a marathon runner, not your Aunt Tilly, who's an Alzheimer's patient. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure you're constantly activating proper things. And the things that help you activate good things, mostly, is food. So you want to make sure your food's clean. Bell peppers. Even though I love bell peppers. Spinach. Cherries. That one killed me. Kale, collard greens, potatoes, and imported grapes. Okay? So these are things to be able to take a look at. We'll get you this PowerPoint you can take a look at and shop from it.
So you're saying just go organic?
Go organic on those.
For everything.
On those. Yeah.
What about using what is it called, that liquid?
The liquid that channels the outside.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
clean the vegetables.
Yeah,
and
well, a
stuff.
lot of these things actually have it in the dirt, so it goes into the plant itself. Okay? So you can't clean out the inside with those.
Right,
Let's get organic,
okay.
because you're worth it. Okay. Now, this is the Clean 15. These are ones that, you know, it's great because they have the lowest pesticides. You may be able to get away with not getting organic out of these. All right? Things like onions, avocados, sweet corn, pineapple, mangoes, sweet peas. Sounds good so far. Kiwi, asparagus, cabbage, eggplant, cantaloupe. My favorite, watermelon. Grapefruit, gotta love that. Sweet potatoes, honeydew, and melon. Okay? So basically speaking, these are the cleanest of them. So if you see these and you want to buy these, don't worry about it. You should be good.
Are a lot of those on the list as well because of what kind of they do as a vegetable or fruit anyways? Like,
No, no, no. We're talking cleanliness here in regards to toxicity.
I'm saying like inside the fruit, for example, or inside the avocado, like some of those things have health benefits. Is that kind of just the fruit or vegetable itself and kind of what it's made up of?
No.
No,
This was
strictly by
this was strictly
what
the
it's grown
toxicity
with,
levels.
is that
Yeah.
okay?
Okay. So you pick from there what's best for you.
Okay.
I mean, you know, onions are a good thing. If you saute them too much, you lost a lot of the sulfur-containing compounds and so on and so forth. There may be certain things on the list that you might find a little too high glycemic index for you. You know, like mangoes may be a little much for you. But these are the cleaner ones.
You had corn on the clean list, except if it's not organic, corn is all going to be genetically modified.
Which brings us into our next category, GMOs. GMOs are very, very interesting. Thank you for that. GMOs are very interesting because GMOs are basically an initial attempt by certain forms of companies to, in their words, increase the crop so people don't starve. The further analysis of GMOs through Monsanto that have been scrutinized by third-party organizations showed that the increase of the crop was not that much. It was actually in low double digits, as where they originally were advertising in high double-digit percentages. Okay? In addition to that, also, there are many different ways in which it affects the human body they're finding out through animal studies. The initial animal studies that are coming out on this are not that good as it affects the GI tract. It actually takes the GI tract and aberrates the GI tract. So you're getting gastrointestinal disorders, which can lead to inflammatory disorders throughout the rest of the body. And there are numerous other areas which I'm sure you can expound on for days with this stuff, because I know you're an expert in this area on GMOs. It's a scary area. So if you get organic, it tends to be a better way to be able to hedge the GMO aspects. Corn, soy, and a number of other types of fruits and vegetables.
Go on YouTube and put in Jeffrey Smith.
Okay?
He's got tons of videos. He's the leading expert on GMOs.
GMO, Jeffrey Smith. So, really, GMOs is the next frontier when it comes to the concept of science going a little bit too far, a little bit too fast without enough research. Some people will come up with a lot of conspiracy thoughts of these things. I'm not going to go here in this presentation. But it certainly looks like it could be fertile ground for that.
Yeah, one of Jeffrey Smith's books is called Genetic Roulette. That's basically what you do when you spin in the wheel with your genes.
This is craziness. So GMOs are a big issue. Go organic, please. Choose free-range, hormone and antibiotic-free dairy, meats, eggs. Go with grass-fed where you can in regards to your meats. All right? Choose fresh, cold water fish in the place of farm-raised. All right? It says it all on the label there. If it says farm-raised, stay away from it. You can have dioxins and all sorts of other things going on in there. And these things actually swim around in their own pee, all right, in their own fecal matter. Let's deal with the fresh forms. I personally still have some reservations, about eating West Coast fish due to Fukushima. I'm having some concerns in that area because I'm seeing conflicting research. Sorry. So I tend to go for Atlantic salmons and things like that, that are cold water fish.
Yeah, but Atlantic salmon is all farm raised. There's no
I found some
wild
sources.
Atlantic salmon.
Yeah, there are some sources.
Really?
Yeah. But you have to search on it, and you can get stuff online too. But it takes more. But you know, it takes time and takes effort to be able to do the right thing for yourself. And this is a little insight for you. When you think protein, what do you think? Most people think something that has two eyes and lived once. There's vegetable protein too. Okay? Don't always make every single meal filled with meat. You have a lot of choices out there. Do you know that rice and beans have a perfect complement of amino acids? Try a meal of rice, beans, avocado. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Put some broccoli along with it. See how you feel after a week of eating a little more vegetarian. See how that works for you. Some people, it really brightens them up a lot and lets them take off weight, have more energy. It's amazing. So what else can you do? Well, there's a certain science in something called metabolic detoxification. The Ultra Clear program, which this is one of the examples of Ultra Clear program, it's a clear change kit. It's probably the easiest way to go on a detox program. It's all in one box with a shaker bottle, the specific things you need, the day-by-day guide for a 10-day period of time to be able to go on a detox. And it's pretty much guaranteed to be able to make you feel a hell of a lot better than 10 days. So basically, what this is it's a safe and effective way to balance the body's detoxificative pathways. Because these detoxificative pathways in the liver require certain nutrients. Many of these nutrients right here are very deficient in the American diet. They just are. And even if you go to Whole Foods all the time, it's hard to be able to get therapeutic amounts of them, considering the amount of toxins. The more toxins you have in your environment, the more your liver needs more nutrients to be able to process them through. So unless, of course, you're living in Tibet and you're drinking wheatgrass, you do need these nutrients. Living in LA, I came from New York, was even worse. So basically, these are the types of nutrients that are in the Clear Change program that are available and allow you to be able to detoxify. And on top of that, it's based on 27 years of clinical experience and scientific research published in peer-reviewed journals. What does that mean? Okay? When you talk about a journal, it means that you're actually a peer-reviewed journal. It means that you actually meet when you submit the study. You're the researcher, you submit the study to the journal. The journal has this group called a peer review group. What that group is, some of the top scientists in that area who knows what a good and valid study looks like. And they turn down more studies than they allow to get published, because many of them are not valid enough studies to be able to be published. We have 27 years of published studies, one after another, on detoxification. We were the leaders in the field who first brought it in, and we still are the most researched in the field in what's known as metabolic detoxification, or upregulating your liver function to get those toxins out so you can feel more vital. And it's a really simple program to be able to do. I mean, it starts out with what you've already just done, which is filled out that questionnaire, okay? And that questionnaire is based on the Cornell Medical Index on Environmental Toxicity, so it's well referenced. Those questions are based on 7 pages of reference citings to be able to be a perfect combination of questions for subjective testing as it relates to your toxicity level. If you found yourself scoring on those to a degree of between 20 and 50 as a total score, or more than 6 in any one of the subsections, then toxicity detoxification would be optimal for you and will help reduce your symptomology. If you just want to be able to clean up your system and make it, fine-tune it and just make it that much better, under 20 is fine. But you're going to see some major changes in symptoms and the way you feel energy if you're between 20 and basically 49. If you're 50 or over in your score, then that means that you would benefit from a 10-day detox, but more than likely you might benefit from a longer detox. And I would recommend making an appointment with Dr. Weitz to be able to hold your hand in regards to it, to make sure you do it properly and you have the best results. Because those tend to be a higher level of symptoms, and we want to make sure we do a good job for you. So basically speaking, if you're falling in those categories, then you would be doing between 20 and 50, 49, you would be doing a Clear Change detox. And basically, it's very simple because we have a program guide and we have it all put together in a box. So this box basically contains...
You said, sorry, between what number and 50?
Between 20 and 49, actually. 50 and over would be, make an appointment to get one-on-one. The basic Clear Change program is the highly researched Ultra Clear Renew, which not only deals with toxins but heavy metals. Okay, a 10-day supply. It comes with a shaker bottle in it with a little ball in the center to help shake it up better. This one actually works nicely. I helped pick these out.
Is that a BPA? I was going to ask you with
There's a
shakers
BPA
like
free,
that.
yeah.
Okay. Are most of them that way, or
No. In addition to that, it also contains something called Advocare in there. Now, when you go through a detox, it means you're freeing up toxins in your body and trying to get them out of your body. You want to make sure that you reduce your symptoms as much as possible. Otherwise, people like you are going to be like, on the 3rd day going, I'm dying, okay? Just hang in there. That's what they used to say with these formulas. Just hang in there. Advocare drastically reduces your symptoms, okay? So the Advocare is in there to be able to help you get through much more easily. It upregulates the liver function, which is known as phase 1 and phase 2, with more of an emphasis on phase 2 to allow the toxin to get out more easily, as opposed to being held there and maybe giving you symptoms like headaches and dizziness and things like that. So this is a nice little added touch which makes patient's much more happy. And that actual guide that we're going to be going over, which is the Clear Change Guide. So basically, it's detox in a box. It's a 10-day period of time. It's pretty darn easy to do, and it's called the Clear Change Program. So basically, within the program itself, it goes over two different things. It goes over the actual powder itself, the nutritional beverage, and the AdvoClear. Those are two main components in the box. But what it also goes over in here is day by day, this program, and it's in 3 steps over 10 days. The first 4 days is what we call the initial clearing, and that's where you start to use some of the actual nutraceuticals, and you start to be able to use less and less categories of foods. Okay? We're trying to remove foods away from you, increase the actual powder, and then reintroduce foods back. Why are we trying to do that? Because there's some foods that you don't know about that you're forming allergic responses to. You're forming sensitivities to. And you've been eating them every single day. In most cases, the practitioners who really know what they're doing have been doing it for a long time, like Dr. White's and others. They've recognized that the things that you crave the most are the things that you're actually showing allergic responses to. Because the allergic response in and of itself forms an adrenal burst. It's almost excitement, like adrenaline. Okay, so when you eat, it's like, ooh. You ever get the feeling when you eat something? With me, it's chocolate. It's like, ooh. You know, I found out I had issues with chocolate. All right? So it allows you to be able to take away that food and then reintroduce it. And when you reintroduce it, all of a sudden, you say, I don't feel good with that food. And the only way to do that is to go on a program like this to be able to see what's actually getting to you. Or you could actually go to an allergy specialist, spends thousands of dollars to be able to do the allergy testing, okay? And you wouldn't get a detox out of the deal, okay? So this is one of the best ways, this elimination and reintroduction type diet. And it only takes 10 days to be able to do it. So it goes over that initial clearing phase, the metabolic detoxification, and that reintroduction of food phase, all in the 10-day period of time. During the course of it, it tells you what foods you should avoid and what foods are recommended. Now guess what? If you do this course, use the foods that are recommended. Don't stand there and go, well, I sort of like this and I did a little bit of that. No. 10 days. 10 days, anybody can do anything. All right? This is your health. Is your health worth it? Come on, give me an answer here.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, good. So if you do it, do it right. So it gives you the things you should have, things you shouldn't have, and even gives you menu plans that are easy to be able to use on every single day. This is day 1, this is day 2 and 3 and 4, this is day 5 through 7 and 8, and this final one is day 9, and then finally talking about a foundation plan to remain detoxified on your system. So basically speaking, it also gives you recipes. You can even go online and get a ton more recipes just in case you're into it. And lastly, you're standing there going, how do I prepare for this? We'll give you a shopping list. Just go buy this stuff for 10 days. You know, buy your food. Here's your shopping list. Made it nice and simple. So if your MSQ score is between 20 and 49, or one of the subsections is 6 or more, then this can really help out to reduce your symptoms. You have to ask yourself a question. You know, are these symptoms things you want to reduce? If you do, it's 10 days. You can do it. All right? So basically, it's nice and simple. And, you know, basically you're just 10 days away from feeling great when it comes to this if you have these symptoms. Take advantage of it. Say to yourself, is this something you want to be able to do? The doctor will guide you through it. And that's basically it. And I'd like to thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
My sister has irritable bowel syndrome.
Yes.
I told her to come here and she says, no, it's not going to help me. But I see everything that you've been talking about has to do with the not using pesticides and all kinds of stuff. Would this help her?
Irritable bowel syndrome can be helped by this, but I would recommend that your sister, you said?
Yes.
Your sister meets with Dr. Weiss. One of the areas in which Dr. Weiss, and I've worked with him before on this, specializes is in the gastrointestinal area in the areas of both IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, and IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease. There are approaches that he uses that are quite insightful and can show great effects in a patient within a relatively short period of time. So this may be part of the program in cleaning up her act there, but he's going to meet her specific needs. I would get her in here.
Okay, I'm going to tell her.
Okay.
I told her to come and listen and hear. She says, no, it's not for me. You know,
Ask her if irritable bowel is for her.
it's not. She's miserable.
Okay, how would you like not to be, do you know what you can say to her? All right, if it's a classic irritable bowel, tell her a month after she meets Dr. White's, she's going to feel very much different about Dr. White's. And she's going to feel very much happier about her GI tract. It can be handled, but it requires support and supervision.
Mhm.
And it can be handled quite nicely.
Thank you.
And your GI tract is the key to your overall
Of course.
health as well.
Of course.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. We do have the clear change kits if you want to take advantage of them. We do have them today. I don't know if you're offering a discount on them or anything like that for today, but the situation is start. You might as well start today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if anybody wants to get a kit, take 10% off. It's $115, so we'll take 10% off of that.
And the nice way to look at it is it does replace some meals. So add approximately $4 per serving on it. You know, how many times have you gone to Starbucks and gotten a Frappuccino? Those cost you $4 and $5. But that one will put you in the grave. This one will send you back up there. All right? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
everyone.
Can we also get a list of, the foods that need to be organic and the ones that don't need to be organic?
Well, that's in this thing. What I can do is I will send to Dale a copy of this PowerPoint. Dale will get it to Dr. White's, and Dr. White's
Okay.
will distribute it to you folks.
By the way, you can go to a group called the Environmental Working Group.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Just Google Environmental Working Group,
Okay.
and they put out a list every year
Oh,
of the foods that's most important to eat organic and least important.
okay.
It's a great resource too. They have a complete list. You can look up cosmetics, you can look up soaps, shampoos.
The Environmental Working Group.
Yeah.
I've heard of them, but I've never looked at the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
Yeah, really good information on, you look up, any of the products, personal care products. Most people don't realize that, the things you put on your hair, your skin, all those things get absorbed into the body, and a lot of them contain, various forms of toxins,
My
estrogenic
girlfriend's a fanatic about that
compounds.
stuff. She's going to love this. Cool.
That's great. I'd love to get a copy of the.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Oh,
Do you have any other thoughts you want to put in? Phil?
No, I think you covered everything, and I think that,